again, everyone. It is 5 o'clock here in New York. I'm Alicia Menendez in for Nicole Wallace. An incredible scene in the nation's capital this week when a crowd of residents drove away about a dozen ICE agents who were stationed at the Columbia Heights metro station. It is just one of the many scenes that show that Americans are not on board with Donald Trump's immigration crackdowns, which oftentimes are turning violent. That violence on display this morning in that same D.C. neighborhood when ICE agents surrounded a car, shattered the windows to arrest the two men inside.
ICE go home! 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 What are you guys doing?
These arrests, they are part of a show of force, and they are happening everywhere. Even outside of schools. Yesterday in Encinitas, California, a father was detained after dropping his kid off in the morning at Parkdale Elementary School. The superintendent alerting the school community that, quote, this incident was witnessed by family, community members, staff, and students, causing fear and trauma across our district. The fear instilled across the country, it shows no signs of slowing down, with brand new reporting in the New York Times showing that deportation numbers are reaching new highs because of this surge in arrests. The New York Times adds in that reporting, quote, with an infusion of cash from Mr. Trump's domestic policy bill signed in July, ICE appears poised to scale its operations even further. Faced with backlash over these aggressive arrests, what you just saw in D.C., the Trump administration continues to double down, claiming that they are going after the worst of the worst. But according to the New York Times, quote, almost all of the increase in arrests has been of people without any prior criminal convictions. And that is where we start this hour with Vice President for Immigration Policy and Campaigns at Forward U.S., Andrea Flores is here, plus pollster and president of Brilliant Corners Research, MSNBC political analyst Cornell Belcher. And with me at the table, senior national and political correspondent for MSNBC, Jacob Sobroff. Jacob, I feel like we need a reset. What was the promise from the Trump administration? And what is it that we are actually watching?
I find it so nuts, frankly, that they continue to talk about that they're going after the worst of the worst. I just saw another post about it on, I think, DHS's social media today, because that actually is never what they promised. They promised the largest mass deportation campaign in the history of the United States of America. I appeared on this broadcast and others across this network from the floor of the Republican convention as thousands and thousands of people held up those signs that said mass deportation now. It was extraordinary to be there and see that in such a celebratory party-like atmosphere when what they literally were promising was ripping apart the country, deporting millions of people, literally the fabric of the United States of America. And when you watch those videos and you see what is playing out from quite literally coast to coast, from Home Depot parking lots today to streets like you're looking at in Washington, D.C., to the courthouse, 26 Federal Plaza here in New York. I just reposted, I've been trying to do this as much as I can, a video I saw from this morning at 26 Federal Plaza that was yet another family separation. And again, I always want to qualify. We don't know the specifics of these stories when they happen until we're able to vet each and every one of them. But the New York Times published that data today, that the vast majority of the increase in the deportations modeled after the 1954 Dwight D. Eisenhower program with that racist name that deported 1 million Mexicans and some Mexican Americans. So Americans as well were deported. That's the model for the program. They're ripping families apart. It's not family separation at the border. It's family separation in the interior, and it's playing out every single day all across the country. This is what they promised. This is what they're doing. But what I don't think they anticipated is that it's not, these are not just activists that are standing out there with phones. Everyday Americans are seeing this happen every single day, and they're outraged by it. And I think that will only continue to grow.
Okay, how do they not anticipate that, Andrea Flores? Because you and I both recall during Trump separation, family separation 1.0, it was suburban moms, some of them avowedly apolitical, who said, I cannot believe this is happening in my country. In that child, I see my own child. Moms don't want to see ICE agents showing up at schools, at churches. There used to be sensitive areas where they were not allowed. The fact that they now feel emboldened, feel as though they can show up in places where they're not just traumatizing the person they are taken into custody and their loved ones, they are traumatizing entire communities.
I think a lot of people, public leaders especially, misread the 2024 election. And there was this argument that immigration writ large was unpopular. And so you saw a lot of analysts say, well, people want mass deportations. The majority of people want mass deportations. But I think a lot of public leaders really dropped the ball because this is what they mean. It means you need to go into every community. You need to go into schools. You need to go into healthcare facilities. You need to go in places of worship. That is what mass deportations have always meant. But when people said, well, President Biden lost the election in part due to the border and immigration, you are missing a huge piece of what immigration means in the United States, which is all of these essential community members going about their lives and being violently arrested on the job, at school, at church. It's really disturbing, and it's important now that leaders step up and explain what's happening.
I think it is so telling, Cornell, that they feel so emboldened, that they know they need to operate so quickly. And the fact that Americans are seeing these images, seeing these videos, and they're paying attention. There was new polling this week. It shows just 43% of Americans approve of Trump's immigration policies. I wonder, in your own focus groups, in your own polling, if you can identify the nuance of what it is that folks are seeing that is not sitting the right way with them.
Well, look, I think these numbers are a big deal, because let's level set for our viewers here.
President Trump's big, beautiful bill hands over more than $175 billion to ICE. That is larger than the annual military budget of every country in the world except the U.S. and China. And more money, by the way, than any other law enforcement agency in the country is getting. But what exactly is that money going toward, and who is benefiting from it? Joining us now, staff writer at The Atlantic, Caitlin Dickerson, and MSNBC senior political and national correspondent, Jacob Soboroff. Caitlin, where is that money going?
It's going to fund President Trump's deportation campaign. So you mentioned $175 billion. About $28 billion a year of that is going to go to ICE, about $45 billion to expand the detention system, $46 billion to complete President Trump's goal of building a wall along the border. Billions are also going to go toward transportation, moving people who are deported out of the country, toward a massive expansion of surveillance technology that's being used and that's going to be used much more for immigration enforcement. So it really is an across-the-board payday that's going to amp up the deportation campaign we're seeing on the ground right now and introduce new elements that are really unprecedented.
Who's getting arrested right now?
Well, the greatest increase in people who's being arrested right now are those who have no criminal record at all. The New York Times reported today the latest number is 180,000 people have been deported from the United States since President Trump took office. So ICE is actually on track for a significant increase in deportations since last year. And their arrests and deportations of people with no criminal record are up 20 times. This includes, as viewers know, families, it includes children. And it speaks to the constraints that the administration put on itself when it promised to deport 1 million people a year. There simply aren't 1 million people who could be deported from the United States who have very serious criminal records. And so ICE is expanding.
Jacob, you witnessed some of these arrests. You went down to Federal Plaza here in New York City. What'd you see?
Not just here in Federal Plaza, but all across the country. And I'm so glad that you and Caitlin specifically are talking about the who that will be caught up in this $175 billion that's going to go to ICE, because as Caitlin said, this mass deportation program is looking to get 1 million people a year. It is modeled after the Dwight D. Eisenhower policy that has a name so racist that I'm not going to say it here. Nobody should say it, not only on television, but just in general, that caught up 1 million Mexicans and some Mexican Americans. Mexican Americans. That's who this is modeled after. That's what this is modeled after. And when you ask who's getting caught up, Caitlin gave you the long list. It's why it's so important, why I think it's been critical for us to go and talk to those folks as much as we can, including Narciso Barranco, that landscaper who was detained, violently detained, while cutting bushes outside an IHOP in Santa Ana, California. When I sat down with him, a couple of weeks ago, I wanted to ask him, what does this country mean to him? Why did he come here? What was it like to get detained in this way under this dragnet when they say they're going after the worst of the worst? And let's watch a little bit of what he told me. He told me you're a person who loves this country, and you taught your boys to love this country, and your 3 boys joined the United States Marines. Why did you teach them to love this country so much?
Porque es un país para nosotros como hispanos, es un país de las oportunidades.
Because for us Hispanics, it's a land of opportunities. But simply, I've always told them, you want to be someone in life? Watch your record. Protect yourself. If you want to be good, you'll be good. And if you don't want to be good, then you can just throw your life away. It's different. It's just as this country can give us an opportunity, it can also destroy many of us.
I wonder how you feel about the country now. It's complicated, huh? Complicado. So those are the kind of folks that are getting caught up in this. Where are they going? Largely to private prisons. And Mr. Barranco himself went to Adelanto, the ICE detention center in the desert outside of LA.
I've seen some of these things happen. Some ICE people have quit. Now, I don't want to make it make it sound like a majority of the ICE officers have quit, but some have, and they've made it clear. Like people leave jobs all the time. You might leave a job not because you hate the job or disagree with the morality of it, but it's time for a change, or you moved, or you got a better job somewhere else, or your spouse did, so you have to find a new job where they got there, and whatever, right? But sometimes you leave a job because of morality. Either the nature of the job has changed, or you've changed, or you've come to a realization that what I'm doing, even if I'm not ultimately the big dog, even if I'm just following orders, at some point you become complicit. And yes, you don't want to blame the individual officers to the same degree you blame Donald Trump and Kristi Noem and all of that. Of course not. They don't have the same kind of power or influence. But ultimately, people know what they're doing. They know what they're doing. They know that even the mission changed. Look, I'm not going to excuse it because I don't think it was ever appropriate to work for ICE, honestly. But, I mean, if you joined up at the beginning of Trump's term, the whole narrative was you're going after the bad guys. Meaning, you're going after, people who remember, it is not a crime to be in the country illegally. That's a civil violation. It's like a ticket. It's not a crime in the sense that you've committed a robbery or something, or you brutalized someone. And so the whole narrative was, ICE, if you're a member of ICE, you're going to be helping Donald Trump and whatnot go after the bad guys, go after the crooks, and go after the people that hurt others, and go after the people that, do damage in our communities. It was they said this, expressly not going after the grandmas and the men who work at the Home Depot looking for odd jobs. And then what happened was they made promises they couldn't keep about, we're going to deport X million amount of people. And so when they found out that there weren't that many criminals, and of course criminals are, unwilling to be caught, they just started arresting grandmas and kids at school and people going in to court for routine appointments, people going to their immigration hearings, all of that. If you signed up to get the bad guys and now you're getting the grandmas, I think some people would quit.